Bulavinaka and welcome to Close Up. There's no doubt that Pacific is most affected by the changing climatic conditions. From coastal erosions to saltwater intrusion, all these are clear indication that climate change is as real as it gets. So tonight on the show, we profile some of the local communities and speak to the authorities that what the impacts of climate change has done to our vulnerable communities. The Pacific lies at the forefront of climatic conditions that have and continues to change. With impacts of climate change becoming more visible as years pass by, those affected are putting in the hard yards to build resilience against the changing climatic conditions. While scientists and experts are busy analyzing the signs of this global phenomenon, people living in communities are the first to experience the changes. So first we visit the Namena District outside Nassori and see for ourselves what people have experienced over the years. This village has 238 residents, most of whom are farmers by profession here. Without much scientific knowledge, these villagers are all too aware of what is happening to their environment due to climate change.
Sa sisiran ni nanggeli mamata may panua sa tosto patotolo na wai ina sa tarama nanggeli ni puno mamata sa tiga pula ko wai na pipuni ko so sa mbobo kilay talanga may wai sa rabu isinga na barabi sa singa talanga na ika mamisaba kila na bisa unin raketariki man na bika ndo kuna iliu wer na tamay kimami na tukay kimami ni kuwa sa andrendre be kimami na kena sabi so uga tolo biki mami tari kimi botolo na biso nin raki kona kena italonoa o mo italono taka chuka ni kuwa anda buni beka so tari ki mami anda buni korong kona kurli
ni mami bonongo ngonongo sarando votu na mango bika wata meki memi ndo bangata na ngoni sinsu paso na be bonongo sar lau sono ngoni mango biki memi talanga ndo batu ya ilu ngonongo sa sianga ni votu na mango kim sa sini ngoni mango tu Misabanya pakilacu ndena hukum bangani bibi sonin rakim sota kaichu.
We look at how the sea level rises and the trees that is planted in the lands, as well as our vegetation and plantation, all affected by the climate change. For example, we took resources before. We used to catch like big size fish, but now undersized fish gets. So we take it to the market.
Satu tolong sikena sisna bibuni ko so me bonua yana kena sasanga itu me kitu sasanga kena pombo teni sasanga ndona kena sala me kitu sasanga kindi ko kitu pa ko bina kena de sare rei kena lewa saya tu mai na tabonongo mai re ta panjene jine ta kan ndongo na sala me kitu na bukikin.
The question that now lies at the heart of the issue amongst these villages is food security. The impacts of climate change is now putting pressure on their food resources, something that these villagers have already started to experience.
Kapag akin sona kakana ndong kimitiba ka rasa buo binaka ye sangai balengai ra chunan raki na buni kena sa sona ngona sibio na uda le kata na singa dila ya tawen na uda le buna mera sa kama na kakana ndong kimitiba ka wana mele ni na kiu kamba na vika ba sember nangon ndoni mera sa ochikina sa ochitali sember nangon ndoni mera matokina sa matomai ana bi kai sa tarachu na ni mami itete ka bi ka kimte ba ka na buni bibi sonin raki kim sandon machu
Kimami sava kila ni tambani kuwa rabu isinga mai wai ka kau tasar kena puno mama ta na buni biso nin raki sa tarai kimami chukuni kuwa
na bi kai tarachu na bi ka kimte ba ka sa mai ba bu lenga chu na bi ka kimina no mutu mi kimami rawata na bi ka kimami teba ka satu na bi ka kimami nanu mi kimina rawata mikin yani ngone ni memi tata musuki sa robi dala chichiku do tena ka kimami nanu mi kimami rawata na bi ka kimami teba ka ngon tata musuki sa lei sar na ka kimami rawata rawa na buni lenga ni bi ka mo sotaba na ite na buni bi sonin raki sa kimami donu ma chono.
With the little traditional knowledge these villages here have, they have tried to build resilience to climate change.
Ngani beka so membala tini mami tobolea ne lendi kor mi mami wala sui telemai na beka so mami sa kunetu na kanan rende ni kuwa ki mami sa tobolea chunga ba malua e sona kalalai ana kena maroi ngani me wai ngoli na kena topule me kaunga me na kain dono me kaumai ka maroi na ve kain dono me maroi ani me balachira na kawani korongo ana bingono mai mur
kimsa tete chigo kimsa bakila chigo na bibi sonro kimsa taka kimsa taka bu chigo sokeni wale ni tete telanga mere ni bi sotara chigo patkin nandra ki kimsa ndonu makachu.
And with whatever efforts these villagers have put in to sustain their lives and build resilience against climate change, it all seems to be going nowhere.
Kimami bina katar songan na kamera ni bukena ni mami tete ena bunin ra kimsa sotaka itu kimere dengan na tamban ni matentu sena tamban ni bibu kita kimrin di bukikina ena ni mami potor dai tinga na bunim tete maybe ro be sotara ki patikin nandra ki kimsa ndonu makatu ngono koy
kito we na korongo lele sar ni tu yala ni kor kimi misal le busar mana le ni kor ni kuwa sa singa bombo ten sar indendre mi kim tos talento na ponwa na ponga ke poka kitu akena pono noko to kireni ko bina tenga bunungo membulu ko bina ka rentos talman ni bale bale teni tu yala ni kor lele sar.
We now travel to Tongu's settlement in Nafua. This little community was first settled by an Irishman in the late 1800s. This isolated community already lacks basic necessities such as proper electricity and water supply. Impacts of climate change just adds to the existing issues people here are facing.
You can see that the grave is out in the sea about 40 meters out, and all the sea walls you can see there that's broken, it's all out in the sea. And when it's low tide, then you can see the where it was land before.
It has affected them morally most of the times due to the fact that most of them have left this place and as such that there was no aid from other countries or other NGOs to help rebuild this area. So morally many of them have left, so we only have a few here.
This community only has 45 residents that now live here. Many families have chosen to leave this place due to the ever-growing impacts of climate change and settle elsewhere. Villagers say coastal erosion has been happening for many decades now. It is evident from the fact that this grave, which was once located inland, is now situated some 40 meters in the waters. However, it was only after the year 2000 when these villagers came to realize that all this is due to climate change.
Most of us were out working, and only my father and my uncle, only two of them were in the village. So at that time we didn't take much notice because we thought it was just due to a natural disaster like hurricanes or flood like that. But now it's very different. Whether it's a hurricane or flood, or no hurricane, no flood, still eroding.
It is very hard for them to stay here because of the where Nabua town is, and plus this is taking place. So they have opted to take their children and move out.
Tongu village, a settlement that has its own unique stories to tell when it comes to living with the impacts of climate change. Villagers claim that this village was located far beyond this coast. However, over the years, coastal erosion has meant villages have had to move inland. This village is also now a national heritage site due to the fact that it's now a unique example of changing climatic conditions. Their ancestors, who were laid to rest on land, now sadly lie in these salty waters.
Because there's salt water all around. We are like we're living in acid land. There's no life. But we can't move anywhere else because you heard that saying that there's no better place than home. Since we've been born here and brought up here, then some of us don't want to move.
Because once you move away from here, for us, for example, all this here in the salt water, these people, it will be gone. Those are memories, we can say memories.
In 2003, a piece of land was allocated to these villages by their relatives from a neighboring province. However, even that agreement is producing futile results. The only option they were left with was either to adapt or mitigate the impacts as part of building resilience to the changing climatic conditions. With the little resources villagers here have, they have embarked on a seawall project.
One engineer came from Spain and told us that they'll make wave breakers. But that costs money. I don't know, will they come back again or they're going to experiment it?
I've tabled a lot of issues pertaining to areas here at Tongu. Not only here, it's also in Wainivindio and Nangara. We have a lot of places. And with the other places, they have received. But with this area, I'm still waiting for that mangrove that has been discussed, that has been approved, the planting of mangrove. Plus, this is an heritage site, which is in the 1800s, where a seawall was supposed to be done. And plus the road as we came in, the water and the electricity, we are still waiting.
We have seen what they did in Pacific Harbour, and in 1920 they put the big rocks on the side of the beach. I think if that be done here in Tongu, we'll save whatever is left. These people who came and brought engineers and whatever the engineers told us we did, but still, because over here the reef is very far. So when the wave breaks out in the reef, when it's far, by the time it reaches us here, things build up again.
We just have to work together, that's all. We just have to work together. There's a lot of work to be done here. It all depends on the villages themselves, not to depend on it. But that's in fact the major projects are the ones that are needed. What are these? One is the water, one is the seawall. Those are major projects. Otherwise, if not, you will find this erosion will reach the road. And then with all my families here, I don't know where they are going to.
This community comes under the care of the Serua Provincial Council. The council is well aware of the environmental issues that these dwellers are facing here.
First, to see that those affected by rising sea levels, we are trying to plan out and map out sea walls, which projects will be lifted to the provincial administrator or rural administrator. And we also have conservation officers in the provincial office, and we are at the profiling stage now, and trying to map out strategies and trying to network with NGOs and other government departments in tackling the issue and trying to eradicate the problems that are faced by the community.
The Provincial Council is working with a non-government organization from Japan to kickstart a mangrove planting campaign.
That is one mitigating factor we are thinking of, having mangroves in replacement of having seawalls, which is costly. That is one mitigating factor. And the second is having a strategy because of the thoughts of resettlement of the area. But we are thinking of planning landscaping so that they would shift if the sea level rises in months or years to come.
I think for myself personally, if the PM just can come and visit this place, and maybe he has some ideas to tell us, to help us. Because right now when we're living here, even if we have a tsunami, I don't think so anyone gonna live in this place.
Government grants are prioritized, and we have to wait for particular funding for all the areas and the avenues that are faced by communities in regards to funding. So we have to wait in regards to that area, and that's why I think the community in Tongu is also facing that, and most of the other communities in the province are also facing that area in issues of their development in as far as Tongu is concerned, rising sea level and building of sea walls and other development projects.
In Fiji, the Climate Change Unit at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is the central agency that facilitates all the climate change related activities, be it implementing adaptation or mitigation projects.
Climate change is no longer an environmental issue alone. because its impacts cuts across all sectors. It affects all sectors of any society: economic, agricultural, transport sectors, and other sectors that affects our very survival.
As a small island development state in a vulnerable country, Fiji faces the danger of rising sea levels, coastal erosion and saltwater intrusion.
We need to manage our activities. We need to manage the activities of our people. That heavily affects our sustainability into the future, and climate will affect that if we are not very careful now.
Fiji has been at the forefront of building resilience against climate change in the region. Yovuli says the best option method for a country like ours is mitigation.
For us, to be able to adapt better, those who are responsible, for the adverse impacts of climate change, they need to assist us, because we are the ones who are at the receiving end. And no matter how much adaptations that we put in place, it still will not bring us back, to the positions of status quo that we enjoyed before these climatic activities do affect us.
Fiji, like neighboring island nations, has been beneficiary of assistance poured in by donor agencies to undertake measures to address the issue. However, are these measures enough to sustain us into medium to long term?
Adaptation is in various measures. We look at renewable energies, we are encouraging the use of solars to reduce our reliance on diesel fuels. These are measures that will help us in the long term. The difficulty here is that we can never quantify how much really is one country needs in terms of measures that is needed, whether it's adaptation or in any other forms, to restore even our ecosystems, to restore our marine reserves.
In a worst-case scenario in Fiji, the only way to build resilience or adapt to climate change is the relocation of our vulnerable communities.
There are some villages in Fiji that has been identified to be relocated. Narikoso in Kandavu, where government has come in with a multi-stakeholder team to assist them. Bunindongoloa in South Sabu, and there are others that have come forward, identifying themselves as being affected by climatic activities.
As you heard earlier, the Tongu community is not opting to relocate themselves. This is where the guideline comes into handy. The guideline addresses some of the sensitive issues in relation to relocation and facilitates a smooth relocation process.
First of all, you involving people who has been living in that particular locality for more than 100 or so years, and they are so attached to that particular place. So we need to put in place proper guidelines that will allow them proper settlements, proper resettlements, that will cater for issues like cost and also issues like ownership. If we move from one particular locality to another piece of land, to whom does that land belong to? We don't want to move people, and at the end of the day, they will be chased out by a second claimant to that property.
Right now, the unit is carrying out a profiling exercise to determine the needs of vulnerable communities.
If it's factors like money, then that's something that's easily managed. But it's factors affecting their own dwellings, their homes, their communities, like coastal inundation, sea level rise. I think they will have no choice but to accept to be relocated.
If they are vulnerable at this current weather system that we know of, the current climate, then for sure in the future, when the onset of climate change sets in, these would be the communities who would really suffer. But doesn't mean to say that only a select communities are vulnerable. Actually, all communities are vulnerable. But in these early stages, we are really seeking to help those who are really crying out there and saying, hey, there's a problem here.
The Pacific Center for Environment and Sustainable Development, PACE-SD, is part of the University of the South Pacific. The center carries out vulnerability and adaptation assessments in our local communities. Their focus is on livelihoods and they have worked with 6 communities.
The impacts of current climate are affecting their very livelihoods, namely water resources, health and sanitation, food resources and food security. And so those are the basic sectors that we are looking into.
Working on building resilience with local communities has taught the center some valuable lessons.
Awareness, can, if it's properly packaged, can ensure that the community really understand and be part of the solution. So that's very, very important.
And of course, the issue of governance and leadership.
Communities where governance and leadership are intact, community uptake is very successful. Okay? So that's one of the other lessons. And the third lesson we found is participation of the community themselves. Okay? If communities are just bystanders, then don't expect the project to be sustainable. Okay? So gone are the days where I am the expert, I come, where are the issues, step aside, I'll do it. And you bring engineers. Gone are those days. Now in the 21st century, people need to get involved, and only then can we sustain those projects.
Carrying out an effective mitigation or adaptation project could cost anywhere between $40,000 to $50,000. Lima Levu says there should also be more funding towards such projects if communities are to reap the benefits in a long run.
Because climate change, in one community now they may be facing water scarcity. Years to come they may be facing agriculture, food security problem. In years to come they may face with dwindling biodiversity. So those are areas that so climate change is in its far as impact is wide. So there comes in the justification of trying to shift from project-based to program-based.
Climate change and its impact has been a hotly debated topic. As the impacts become more visible in smaller countries like ours and begin to threaten our livelihoods, the stark reality becomes clearer.
The future is very clear. If we don't adapt and mitigate, the communities will be affected. I guess the question should be really, how can we adapt and how can we mitigate? And that's both, it's a policy question and a political question. And we know that for us to mitigate or to adapt, our government is very committed and is very supportive of the approach.
That's the show for tonight. For questions or comments, please email us on closeup@fijitv.com.fj. Join us again same time next week. Until then, good night.